All right, since we have heard your opening statements, we will now begin with our question. This one, you have 1 minute to answer. Your question is, oh, they're still here, sorry. Who's got to be up at 3 in the morning? Just kidding. Actually, I'm not, but that's not why we're doing it. I'll wait for the all clear. While we are waiting, this is one of the nicest rooms we've ever had for a forum like this. So this is really, really, I'm very grateful for whoever put this together, because that's awesome. Good job. We're good? Thank you. All right, again, sir, 1 minute to answer, if you would please. Scott will be your timekeeper, and we will stop you at exactly 1 minute. Which political leader from the past 50 years, other than Ronald Reagan, do you see as a role model?
Well, it's hard to talk about any political leader other than Ronald Reagan, but I guess in the current times that we're talking right now, it would have to be Roy Blunt for me. He's been a great leader in Missouri, and I respect him and what he's done and what he's been able to do, so he has to be my guy right now.
All right, thank you. Scott's resetting. You will also have 1 minute for this question, sir.
Okay.
In what specific ways would you help to support and unite the Republican Party in this district?
Well, as I said earlier, my district, my senatorial district, is a very, very conservative district. And I guess what I'm a little bit fearful of, that we're going to have a split in the Republican Party. We somewhat seen that last year on the state level. Those that are, quote, ultra-conservative, those that are conservative. So it would be my goal to pull folks together on every issue. You know, I think our national spending and what we're doing there, no one can literally support that. So I think that as Republicans, it's extremely important we pull together, regardless of if we're kind of outside the mainstream or moderate, to make sure that this state stays Republican and these folks represent our values. I don't think we want another Mitt Romney type candidate.
We'll have 2 minutes to answer this question, sir. Given the 8th District's vulnerability to natural disasters, what will be your approach to funding for FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers with the current budget crisis?
And those are wonderful questions and questions that we talk about on the state level. I serve on the Appropriations Committee, and you know, there was a terrible tornado in Carruthersville, I think in '06, and we're just now getting some bills from FEMA as a state on paying those bills. We've got jobs ahead of us as a state, and this affects everyone, not only in the state, but in the United States. We've got horrible disasters out on the East Coast. I think that we have to fund and make sure that we're able to respond and respond promptly. But one of the things that concerns me greatly, what we just passed as aid to the East Coast contains so much pork that it doesn't make any sense. So I guess my point is, in addition to making sure we get help to the folks, let's not allow some of these things that's been going on. Emergencies are emergencies. And please, let's spend money where it's needed, those folks on the ground that are suffering.
All right, thank you. You have 2 minutes to answer this question. That's the volume thing on the wall there. What is your position on reauthorizing the 2008 Farm Bill, which expired September 30th, 2012? Please be specific.
Well, what we got out of Washington recently with the deal that was cut on the fiscal cliff was kick the can down the road a bit. And you know, all of us can be purists and say, you know, the Farm Bill, does that assure people, or does that allow them to not be good farmers? I can tell you and guarantee you that's not the case. With the input costs today in row crop farming, it is imperative that there be an insurance policy in place. There's no way people can put that kind of money in the ground, and the cost of what an acre of land is today. So it's extremely important that we have a farm bill, a 5-year bill, that people can plan their futures on and what to do. And, you know, along those lines, I have some good ideas on what I think we can do as far as economic development related to agricultural enterprise involving the southern half of Missouri.
All right. We have 2 minutes to answer this question as well. How would you support economic development in the 8th District?
Okay, thank you. Something that we're working diligently on, and I would like to continue this on the national level, on the federal level. We talk a lot about enhanced enterprise zones, TIF projects, and all these things. These do benefit municipalities, but one of the things that concerns me greatly in Missouri, I'm a farmer as well as a veterinary and as well as a state senator. Somebody says maybe you've got too many jobs, but I'm a cow-calf operator, me and my son and my grandchildren. And one of the things that concerns me is we produce a tremendous amount of food, both in the row crop area. We are probably better than anywhere else in the Midwest producing cattle, and we ship these things out of the state. So my idea is we do some agri-enterprise zones, and hopefully we can build some processing plants in the food hill. We're not just selling rice, putting on a barge, shipping it out, corn. I think value-added agriculture is the answer to employing a lot of people that don't farm. And there's, you know, this district is listed as the poorest in the nation. I'm embarrassed by that, and we have worked very hard to try to change that, not just for my senatorial district, for this entire district. This idea is getting caught, it's catching on. We're being called and asking for appointments from Archer's, Daniel Midland, and Monsanto. And I don't want to get in the business of government choosing winners and losers. That's not where, that doesn't help. I want to get in the business of giving some abatements for a short period of time and building a tax base for schools and building infrastructure all over Missouri, not just in my district, but this, we can slaughter cattle here, we can make flour here, there's a lot of things we can do to process, and that's what I intend to do.
Time. This is your last question. You will have 1 minute to answer. Washington seems to be in gridlock. When, if ever, is it appropriate to compromise?
There are certain values. I am a Christian. I was raised as a Christian. I was raised in a small dairy farm, very poor. Education is a very important aspect of my life and to my family. There are certain core values you never compromise on. Now, do we compromise at the state level or at the federal level? Yes, we do every day. You have to move your idea forward. You have to cut the deal. You have to be conservative but compassionate. You have to be respectful but tough as hell when it calls for it. And so there are some issues you just don't go there. You know, I'm not going to moderate on my pro-life stance. I'm a life member of the NRA. I'm disgusted with what Washington has done this past week. Those issues, your core faith, values, you do not ever moderate on. Thank you.
All right. It is time for your closing statement. Each candidate at the end of questioning will have 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds for you to make a closing statement.
Thank you very much. And, you know, there's so many things I'd like to tell you about Dan Brown and what I am and what I do, what I stand for. But I think things that you can remember is I do serve God, I serve my family, and I serve my country. And I think that says a lot about who I am, what I am. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, are you going to be a candidate for U.S. Congress? No way, are you nuts? You know, there's a lot of things about Washington I loathe. And after much prayerful consideration, and I have not called a lot of committee members. As a practicing veterinarian being called out 24 hours a day for 38 years, I respect some family time. I respect Christmas. I respect the holidays to be with your family. So part of me apologizes for that. Part of me says, you know, hey, that's who I am. I'm sorry. My father's been very ill and I've missed a lot of these forums. I do apologize for that. And the only reason that I would ever consider this move, and I mean in my lifetime, would be There's 5 of those. They're grandchildren. I love them dearly. I could lay my life down for them tomorrow. They live in our town. I see them about 3 or 4 days a week. And that is why I live. That's why I'm here. And I want to do the same thing for your grandchildren. I can be the toughest guy you ever met if you push me in that corner. Thank you very much.
Senator Dan Brown, thank you, sir. We'll have Jason Crowell next.
Not trying to hold you up, Paul.
No, you're okay, Jason. Don't worry, I haven't got you. All right, Jason, you will have 1 minute for your first question. I will give you how long you have before each question before I pose it.
Okay.
Everyone, again, please hold your applause till the final question and closing statement are complete. Jason, you have 1 minute to answer this question. Which political leader from the past 50 years, other than Ronald Reagan, do you see as a role model?
Winston Churchill. I can tell you, the best advice I've ever heard was a speech given by Winston Churchill. He came to speak at a graduation. And for those of you that know Winston, he went nowhere without a top hat, a cigar, and a cane. And he walked up to the podium and addressed these students. He looked them right in the eye and he said, "Never give up." The crowd looked back, and then he reared up on the toes of his feet and said, "Never give up." He put the hat back on, the cigar in his mouth, took the cane, and sat down. What a great bit of advice. I've never given up in Jeff City, and I won't give up on you in Washington, D.C.
You have 1 minute for this question. In what specific ways would you help to support and unite the Republican Party in this district?
Lead. Lead by example. I was fortunate enough to get elected to the Missouri House at 28 years of age. I knocked on a lot of your doors, and you all were gracious enough to support me. And then when the Republicans became the majority, I was elected the youngest majority floor leader in the history of the state of Missouri. The first Republican floor leader in 48 years. And let me tell you, I got to drive all across this wonderful state that we have. Sleeping on couches, sleeping on floors, recruiting candidates, visiting with many of you about how do we move forward our conservative, principled leadership. I've done it in the Missouri House, and I know I can do it for you in Washington, D.C.
Jason, you have 2 minutes for this question. Given the 8th District's vulnerability to natural disasters, what will be your approach to funding for FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers with our current budget crisis?
Well, I know that we are prone for disasters, but we are also very self-reliant in Southeast Missouri. What I will not support is I will not support emergency hurricane relief that is more laden with pork. Have you guys seen this new Sandy relief bill? Folks, it's got more pork in it than the Pilot House and Wibbs combined. And they got great barbecue. We can't allow anyone to continue to take real national disasters and hijack them. I think I saw there was a racetrack funding for Hurricane Sandy relief. I don't know how that happens. It happens because we have leaders in Washington, D.C. that go along to get along. Folks, I've told you, I've stood. And I may have even upset a couple of you when I said no. But believe me, I've got the scars up and down over 12 years of representing you in Jefferson City that show I can stand firm for what's best for us in Southeast Missouri and Southern Missouri.
2 minutes for this question as well, Jason. What is your position on reauthorizing the 2008 Farm Bill, which did expire September 30th, 2012, and please be specific?
Well, one of the things that I learned that was very crazy about that reauthorization of the Farm Bill is that we had on the books laws that so mismanaged the free market that milk was going to cost $8 if we didn't do something. Now, how in the world does that happen? Congress continues to think that they can do better than the free markets. So I have a real problem with legislation that would have resulted in our milk costing as much as $8. Another issue that I have is the agriculture bills. And agriculture is very, very important to us in southern Missouri. But what I have a problem with is every agriculture bill is now a food stamp bill. There's more food stamps in an agriculture reauthorization than there is that talks about agriculture. Why is that? We're being held hostage on agriculture issues for food stamps. And folks, let's be real. We have more people on food stamps, on welfare, than we ever have. And we've got to start trimming that back. So specifically, I would work to decouple our agriculture away from food stamps so that we get caught in this position of being supportive of agriculture, but we have to support all these food stamps. And specifically, I would make sure that we repeal all of these books, or all these laws on the books that would make milk cost $8. It's crazy.
Jason, you have 2 minutes to answer this question. How would you support economic development in our 8th district?
Right to work, right to work, right to work. Folks, the best government program is a job. Now, I know that position may make a couple of you upset, but if you've lived in southern Missouri as long as I have, you've seen neighbors, you've seen friends' parents, you've seen grandparents lose jobs to Arkansas, lose jobs to Oklahoma, lose jobs to Tennessee. Listen, southern Missouri is proud. We just want an opportunity. And until we embrace right to work, which is the one true economic action that we can take as a state, we're never going to be able to provide those opportunities in southern Missouri. We'll lose them to Tennessee. We'll lose them to Arkansas, as we have. So right to work, right to work, right to work.
Jason, this is your last question. You will have 1 minute to answer it. Washington seems to be in gridlock. When, if ever, is it appropriate to compromise?
Well, it's always appropriate to talk and discuss. But I'll tell you what, if we do much more compromising, the way that current Republican leadership in Washington, D.C. defines compromise, there's going to be nothing left. Principles matter. Principles matter. How in the world can a Republican conservative look you in the eye and at the time they're asking for your vote, say, I won't give Washington, D.C. any more money, and then go ahead and vote for the man-made disaster called the fiscal cliff, or raise the debt limit, or not pass a budget? How in the world does Congress not pass a budget? They haven't gone on 4 years now. None of us could do that. So on those key issues of spending, on those key issues of getting our act together, we can't compromise anymore, folks. We need to have people that will represent us in Washington, D.C. that can say no.
It is time for your closing statement, Jason. You will have 1.5 minutes for it when you're ready.
Thank you all so very much. My name is Jason Crowell, and I'm asking for your support. I've had the honor of representing many of you in this room for the last 12 years in Washington, or in Jefferson City. I look forward to the opportunity of possibly representing you in Washington, D.C. I don't currently hold office. I won't cause another special election or selection if I'm chosen. And as I said in my opening, all I have is my record. All I have is my consistency. From stopping spending and stopping wasteful spending. I've had more ink written about me than all other candidates combined about my efforts and how I've been tested. From not tapping the rainy day fund, to saying no to baseball stadiums, to pushing for Medicaid reform, to standing up against tax credits without reform, to pension reform that I passed that will save you, the taxpayers, over $600 million on the state level over the next 10 years. Folks, records matter. Having the ability to stand for that next generation. I'm Jason Crowell. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you all.
Our next candidate coming to the podium is Bob Parker. Bob, I'll explain. I'll give you the time before we ask each question. Stop is now Pete. So I heard a quack quack earlier. I'm thinking Scott had to go. But Pete will tell you 15 seconds before your time is up. He'll also give you a 1-minute warning on the 2-minute questions. And then when we say time, it is time. Okay?
Okay.
You have 1 minute to answer your first question, Bob. Which political leader from the past 50 years, other than Ronald Reagan, do you see as a role model?
Other than Ronald Reagan? Are you kidding? Ronald Reagan's my favorite guy. Political leader in the last 50 years. Oh, you know, we've had a shortage. I gotta tell you, we've had a pretty bad shortage of leadership for a long time, I think, in this country. You know, things have been happening, spending and our freedoms and everything else. Let's see. Political leader. One political leader that I have a lot of respect for is Ron Paul. I think Ron Paul, even though I don't agree on everything that Ron Paul stands for, he really got it right on a lot of issues. I think he got it right on the Fed. I think he got it right on spending. I think he got it right on a lot of economic issues. So that's probably one of the top people on my list.
All right, thank you. First time I've laughed all day, too. Thank you. You have 1 minute for this question, Bob. In what specific ways would you help to support and unite the Republican Party in this district?
I'd follow the Constitution. I think that's one thing that is really critical in our party and in our state is we really have kind of a fractured party. We had kind of the Ron Paul thing going. We kind of have the Tea Party thing going. We kind of have the mainstream Republican Party thing going. And I think a lot of the problems with the way we've been fractured is we have people that really haven't followed the Constitution like they should. So I think the answer to uniting this party and moving our conservative principles forward is to follow that Constitution. And remember, the federal government is limited by the Constitution, and the rest of it is reserved to the states. And that's how it should work. That's how it was meant to work. That will unite the party, and that will unite conservatives.
All right, Bob, you have 2 minutes for this question, or for this answer of this question. You're welcome. Given the 8th District's vulnerability to natural disasters, what will be your approach to funding for FEMA and the Army Corps of Engineers with our current budget crisis?
Well, I think we've got to look real hard at a lot of the funding. I have real problems with the funding that they just did with Hurricane Sandy. $50-some million filled with pork up there. I think we have to look real hard at how we're funding our agencies and go back to just common sense and a lot of self-reliance. The federal government should be limited in some of the things that it does. It can't provide all the answers for everybody. That's why I buy insurance on my house. That's why I lay in supplies for a rainy day and keep money in my checking account if I can. To personal responsibility. That's kind of what our party was supposed to be built on, right? And not look to government to supply all of our needs. So I have a real problem with everything that happens, every natural disaster that happens, look to the government for another big bailout. I think we need to get away from that as much as we can. And by the way, even if it was the right thing to do, We're broke, folks. Where does this money come from? Where did the $50 billion come from to bail out, back east? It's wonderful to give all this money away, but you always got to remember, anytime you're giving money to somebody, you're taking it out of somebody else's pocket. Government doesn't create anything. It's hard-working people busting their chops somewhere, making money is what's producing that money that the government seems to just spend and throw away with abandon. Thank you.
Okay, Bob, 2 minutes for this one. What is your position on reauthorizing the 2008 Farm Bill? And be specific, it did expire September 30th, 2012. What is your position on reauthorization?
I haven't gone into great depth on the Farm Bill. That thing was kicked around so many different ways. I haven't looked. Again, and I'll just give you my general philosophy on the Farm Bill. I think the Farm Bill includes a lot of things. I mean, my family farms. I grew up on a farm. I grew up on a row crop farm. Many of my family still row crop farm. And I think we need to transition and get the government out of farming as much as we can. I farm. I run cattle. I'm not in any program. I don't, I'm not getting any special deal. There are some farmers that do have special deals in the Farm Bill. I think we've got to cut a lot of that stuff out. I'm sorry. I just think government's gotten too big, and we look to the government to take care of all of our problems. I think farmers want to get money from the market. That's what I want to do as a farmer. I want to get money from the market, and we've seen the markets consolidate in beef and grain and everything else. We've seen that consolidation. We've seen trade deals that have really hurt our farmers and hurt our producers. So I think we need to get back to those kinds of things to solve the problems. Again, we don't have the money to do this kind of big government programs forever. Time is not on our side.
Okay, Bob, 2 minutes for your answer on this one as well. How would you support economic development in our 8th district?
Good question. We have a lot of candidates running here. Missouri has got some of one of the worst business climates of any of the states. You know that? Southern Missouri has a really tough business climate. Just go out and run a business like I have. Try to do something to run a business, and you'll get the alphabet soup of federal agencies that step in that want to control you. You got a tax burden. You have the uncertainty. You don't know what tomorrow is going to hold for you or your business or your family. I mean, those things need to be addressed. We need to work on the business climate instead of coming up with special deals like the China Hub and Aerotropolis up there and crony capitalism kind of a deal. We need to level the playing field for everybody and provide a good work environment for everybody. So that will stimulate the economy to get government off the neck of businesses and people out there trying to produce. And remember, it's people that produce wealth. I mean, all wealth comes from the earth. And we grow it, we mine it, and we add value to it. That's where wealth comes from. It doesn't come from big government.
Amen.
This is your last question today, Bob. You have 1 minute. Washington seems to be in gridlock. When, if ever, is it appropriate to compromise?
I'll answer it this way. I'm an old farm boy. I've got a lot of fences on my farm. I farm about 630 acres. I have a lot of fences to take care of. And I've described compromise this way. I can compromise on how I build my fence between me and my neighbor. Is it going to be 4 strands or 5 strands or gaucho wire or red brand or steel posts or wood posts, or how far apart they're going to be? We can compromise on those kinds of things. But it's where that fence goes that we have to stop compromising. When we keep moving those fences in and getting less and less of our freedom as we compromise and compromise and compromise, like I said one night, pretty soon you're just mowing your yard and you've lost the farm. And I'm done, and I think you're done with that kind of compromise.
Bob, we'll now have your closing statement. If you would, please, you have 1.5 minutes.
Thank you, Mom.
You're welcome.
It's really good to be here with you guys tonight. It's great to see y'all. I've seen all of you, most of you, over the last 4 years that I've run around this district. Again, I'm not a professional politician. I don't have a staff of speechwriters. I get up and share my heart. And we're in trouble. We're really in trouble. I see people hurting all across this district. I see things that the government's doing that are absolutely insane. And I want to change that. People talk about tonight that they're fighters. Well, I've been the only one in this race for 4 years talking about the bailouts and big government and out of control spending. We've had meetings all across this district about farm issues and the way we're being impacted by the government. And frankly, I haven't seen a lot of these people that are up here wanting to run for office involved in those fights and in those meetings. I wasn't paid to do those kinds of things. I did it because I am really tired of having this out of control government control our lives in ways that none of us can take anymore. I strongly believe in the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is the foundation that all the rest of our freedoms are. I ask for your support in this race. I ask for your vote. God bless Missouri. Thank you.
Parker, thank you.